Well, here we are with Daryl Tom from Bat Machine. We are in the Bullet Central booth. What's going on, Zach? All right, so we're going to talk about Bat Machine. Now, F-Class, you cannot walk an F-Class line without seeing Bat actions. Bat M's, Bat B's, the Nuvos now. Very prolific action on the market. I would probably say that most people would argue it is the most used action, at least in F-Class, but I know PRS, NRL Hunter, hunting, everywhere, right?
Short range bench rest is where we cut our teeth, so yeah, it's pretty much dominate that market too.
All right, very cool. So walk me through briefly Bat B, Bat M, Nuvo. You guys have an amazing selection of actions. Kind of walk me through the different ones and why I would want to choose one.
Okay, so our smallest, going from smallest to largest, our smallest is our SV action. Good short range bench rest or a varmint gun with up to BR size cases.
Okay.
From there we step up to the Model B, which is also a DS. They're sisters, like brother and sister. They're just slightly different port length and features that come standard with them.
Okay, so slightly larger cartridges.
On the B is 0.2 inches longer port than on the DS.
Okay.
So if you're shooting the BR shorter, you can go with the DS. Otherwise, longer, you'll go with the Model B.
Okay.
Then coming up from that would be our Model M.
Okay.
And on the Model M, good for 284s. The Magnum cases, I think it's the 3.3 inch load port.
Yeah. So we see a lot of those in like TR, open, stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay.
1,000-yard bench rest, good actions.
Okay.
Especially recommended, integral pick rail, integral lug on them. Pretty much all those have the lugs integral once you get to the M level. So
okay.
On the B level, DS, you can go either way depending on your build of your actions.
Okay.
And then, so along the same lines, then once you get to the Model B, it would also transfer to the Nuvo that we build exclusive for Bullet Central.
Okay.
This would be similar to our Model B size.
Somebody on my team actually shoots these.
Okay.
Loves it. Okay. Absolutely loves it.
They're very nice.
Yeah.
Took years of what we knew on our actions and then incorporated and made new improvements on this. So
yeah.
And then this Nuvo LR would be similar to our Model M action as far as length, size, and configuration.
Now, there's some really unique features that you guys did when you went to the Nuvo, right? Different locking system, lug orientation.
So that was a joint effort with Chris Harris and Dwight Scott.
Okay.
They wanted to try action with when it's closed, where the lugs are horizontal rather than vertical on standard.
Because on a standard 700 or most 700 clones,
they start horizontal and lock vertical.
Yeah, and so at yours they go horizontal when they're locked.
Correct.
Okay.
So the thought behind it is there's always pressure from the trigger up on the back of the action, back of the bolt, and you have to have clearance in order to make it work. So it lifts the back of the bolt, and the bottom lug is touching. The top lug has a gap. Fire it. The releases of pressure, drops, lets everything settle down.
Okay.
And potentially can cause issues with your accuracy.
Yeah.
So by doing this, both bottom halves of the lugs are touching. It's a smaller area, and there's less movement during the firing cycle.
Okay.
Also, in doing that, we went with a full body bolt. So the body is the same diameter as outside the lug.
And that's a really unusual feature, right? You just
not on a 2-lug action in particular. It's not very common. 3 lugs, even 4 lugs, it's more
like
common.
Your 3LL did that.
Our 3L and 3LL both had the big body. One advantage, if you decide to blow your gun up, is
is that a decision?
In some ways it is. You've made some decisions beforehand that caused it to happen. But it seals this area up.
Okay.
So then it has to vent out the side.
Okay, that makes sense.
There again, there's arguments both ways on that you're kind of trapping the gas then more than you would on a 2-lug.
Okay.
But And then while we were on this project, like I say, it's a collaboration between the two companies. They actually build the hangers for these, and they do final assembly on them.
Okay.
They offer right-handed bolts, left loads, right ejects. They also offer drop ports.
Okay.
Or single port. Lots of options there. Pretty much always 20 MOA rail because that's what everybody needs to reach out.
Yeah, exactly.
And you still shoot 100, no problem with them. So during this project, we did quite a few changes.
Wait. So let's talk about what you just did there.
Okay.
For those that don't know, because I'm just going to tell you, every action I've ever had, I need a tool to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Walk me through what you just did there.
We've had bayonet shrouds now for as long as I've worked there.
Okay.
Way in the beginning, they were threaded in like everybody else. But then a long time ago, Bruce started with bayonets, and I'll show you standard. This will be a little easier to see.
Okay.
You've got this piece sticking up here.
Yep.
That runs down a track and then locks in.
Okay. It's just a push-pull system to get it in and out then. Wow, that is so toolless maintenance.
Yes, and so here's the difference. On the Nuvo, we use 3 little teeth instead of on each side, instead of 1 tooth on each side.
I gotcha. Okay.
And so what that does is it allows us to have a bigger bearing surface here. And we fit this even tighter than normal.
Because you don't have to worry about threads being there.
Right.
Okay.
But even on our others, we fit the Nuvo even tighter in this area.
Interesting. Okay.
To prevent any play in this feature.
Okay.
And then the other thing is the firing pin is running on a burnished hole in the shroud. So the very close fit in there as well.
That is quite the firing pin.
Yeah.
That's a very, very interesting design.
So going back to how this installs, on the back of the bolt, you probably might not be able to see it, but there's a little mark here, and then there's a bigger detent. This is the one that sits in when you're running the gun.
Okay.
But this one, the one you use to line up, because on this version you can't see where they are. So you have to line the shroud up with that, push it down, and then rotate it until it clicks into that second detent.
Wow. So easy to cock, decock. If I want to travel without load on my spring, easy to do.
Of course, if you run it down here, then you kind of get in trouble.
Yeah.
Then you got to manhandle it back up.
The old shoelace trick, right?
Yeah. But after doing it enough years, you can usually get it out, and except for on the 50 cals or something like that. So.
All right.
The other thing you can do while we're talking about it is, if you ever have that problem, you can always grab it in a vise here and pull as you rotate.
Okay.
That's a quick way to, if you're in the shop.
So I have another person on my team. So I have one person that shoots Nuvos, another guy that shoots 3LLs, and so he's explained some of that to me before, but I've never actually understood why and how that works in there. So I appreciate you talking about that.
Yeah. So one thing we have on here that we don't have on any of our others is a lube hole for the firing pin.
Okay.
So you can put a little oil in there.
Okay.
And speaking of lube, on lubing up an action, any of the contact points you would want some type of oil or grease. We send them out usually from our shop with grease on most areas just to overprotect.
Yeah.
But once you get it, you can run basically all the finer surfaces with an oil. And we use a synthetic would be recommended rather than standard stuff.
What about on the lugs? What's your preferred lube on the
grease?
Grease.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, these are black nitrided components: firing pin, shroud, bolt body, and action. They don't need a lot of anything, but it does help. It makes it a little bit smoother. It's not going to hurt anything if you ran it dry.
Sure.
But it's going to run smoother with it.
No, that totally makes sense.
So in our shroud, to prevent rubbing during the firing cycle on the Nuvos, it's
heavily
cut out.
relieved.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's only just enough to guide it and make sure it's going the right direction, not flopping around in there.
Okay.
And then, so for oil, it would be any of the contact surfaces. This surface, these little ears.
Okay.
You don't really need anything back here because nothing's touching back here.
Gotcha.
The oil hole I mentioned there, And then only thing up here that touches is actually the tip that's gone because of the shot show.
Gotcha.
So you don't need to lube anything behind there. You should probably drop a little bit on both ends of the spring.
Yeah.
Here and here, and it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit under the spring as it coils up, just to make sure it's free floating in there.
Okay.
So if you do it on here, you don't have to really do it in the bolt.
Yeah. What about the bolt body?
So the bolt body, I like to use a little bit of oil on the outside.
Okay.
If I was in harsh environments at PRS, I don't. I
Run it dry. Okay.
And again, I would lube this with we use Milcom is what we send with it, but like I say, it's a synthetic. Any other synthetic would be
it's a TW25 stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So I'd put it on there, and then their instructions are to work it in your action, and then I would, on a PRS in particular, I'd dry everything off.
Okay.
So nothing's going to be
whatever's
dust.
left behind is good.
Yep.
Clean off the bolt at that point.
Yep.
It'll
As long as you
engage
don't
what
use
it
a
needs
solvent, you're good. And then, every once in a while, especially in the south, you'll want to probably get some oil in these areas just because the spring could rust up or something.
Okay.
And you might want to take your ejector plunger out once a year and clean it up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And as far as Bullet Central goes, what lines do they carry? What can I expect to see over there?
So they
Obviously
they're our biggest reseller of all of our actions.
Okay.
They're exclusive to the Nuvo action, but they can carry anything from, we mentioned the S up through the M, and then we also have the going to be coming out later this year, a replacement for our Model L called the XL.
Oh.
That'll work with like the Vestal cases, 338 Lapua, Tri-Tac, all of those really well for the long range stuff. And then we have our EX and EXS for the 50 cal, which also we have bolts for the
And
Tri-Tac.
so are those, like I've seen Gavin's got...
He's building one up of that. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That thing, so when I was up at his place, I got to play with that.
Yeah.
That thing was
A lot of
amazing.
King of 2 Mile stuff.
Yeah.
Their guys are running those.
And one thing we didn't talk about, the Nuvo has effectively replaced the 3LL, correct?
It is, yes. We are, the 3L, 3LL are end of life for us.
Okay. So if I want to build up a new, 7 PRCW, go shoot F-Class, something like that, I'm going to want the Nuvo, right?
The Nuvo or an M.
Or an M, okay.
Yep.
Biggest difference being, obviously, there's the internal designs, weight differences between the M and the Nuvo. Not a lot?
Minimal.
So both are functional for TR or open?
I would think, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know the details, what you guys require on that.
Yeah, well.
I run in one of these in my 1,000-yard bench rest gun, 17.5 pound. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. Magnum bolts, standard face bolts, you guys offer it all?
Yes, depending on the size of the action.
Yeah.
These only go up to Magnum.
Okay.
Down to the 308.
Okay.
The smaller Nuvo, PPC 308.
I was going to ask, yeah, PPC and stuff like that.
You could run a Meg. I'm not sure if they ever really do. It's a little bit small of an opening to really run a Meg.
And then if I'm doing PRS, what action am I going to be looking at?
So we got the TR action. So it's got the AW cut in the bottom.
Okay.
All of our repeater actions have a modular bolt design. I didn't mention that on the other, but on the Nuvo and on our bench rest lines, they're solid bolts out to about here.
Okay.
And we turn those from 2.5-inch bar stock.
Wow.
Not plate cut, so the grain of the structure of the bolt is concentric to what we started with.
Yeah.
It's not offset to save material.
Yeah, that makes sense. But here you got a modular bolt.
Here we got a modular bolt. So we have a nice straight piece in the front and then a handle in the back.
Okay.
And then they're put together. I'll show you that because it's pretty unique. Again, slide that to where the handle is. It pops out. And
then another little tool just to pull that part.
Yeah. Hopefully this one's not stuck in there. I think it might be.
And people have to remember, we're here at SHOT Show. The guns do have to be changed a little bit. Okay.
So pull the sleeve out, and then we can just slide this apart.
Wow.
And you could replace it with a 223 or a Magnum.
No joke.
Put it back together.
All right, that's pretty
And
cool.
to go back together, some people try and start here and come across. Well, save yourself some effort and start there.
Okay.
Make sure that the extractor is on the right side,
Yeah.
because you can put it together upside down, no problem.
Then your rounds will never come out.
Right. Won't eject. Can't
Yeah.
figure out why. Slide it together. So it lines up.
And then
And
you-
that fit is all machined. We don't handwork that at all.
Wow. And then the sleeve
Get our
goes
sleeve
in.
back. Set it in there. Use the shroud to install it
So it kind of seats that sleeve.
until it clicks.
Wow, that's crazy. So, I mean, I've obviously seen like modular bolt faces on different
Right.
actions. I've never seen the entire
Right.
bolt assembly
What-
switch
we-
out.
You know, people want to be able to change a little more cost effective.
Yeah.
But we don't care for the design where this is floating.
Yeah.
And we can argue that all day long, what's better or worse.
Yeah.
We like the idea, though, of this being trapped between the front and the back. So we put this joint back here, so when it's in, you don't see it. It's buried.
Seamless,
So it's
yeah.
it's trapped. If the sleeve wasn't doing his job, you could probably run it without the sleeve. I mean, at some point it'll probably shift a little bit. But it's controlled on all sides when it's in place.
All right. Cool. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Oh, there's probably thousands of things to talk about.
But I don't have enough memory, right?
I don't have enough time or memory. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well,
So-
all of those can be found at Bullet Central. Head over to their website. They are pretty much a one-stop shop for anything precision. So you can do an entire build, right? They've got everything.
They do.
They can do the action, the trigger hangers,
Yep.
throw a Bix and Andy on there,
They make a lot
stock,
of-
barrel,
Even dies and
dies and everything, right?
presses and everything
Daryl,
else. So.
awesome. Thanks so much
Yeah.
for taking the time to talk about Bat
Thanks for
Machine.
coming by.
All right. Have a good day.
Yep.